Cindy Dole, and this is Home Wizards, your radio home for all things home, garden, and life improvement. I call it life improvement because even though it's a home improvement show, it's so much more than that. It really is about little things and big things that I think when you get those little things done, then eventually the big things done, all of a sudden just your life is better. You know, it's all about finding what you need to surround yourself with to really make the changes and improvements and enjoy those special moments in the most important place in your world, and that's your home. So keep the number handy to join on in. The number is 888-KFWB-980, 888-539-2980. And wasn't that fun talking about the seed library? I can't wait to hear that come about. David King was sharing some of that with us, and I think it sounds so innovative. And what a great way to really turn it back, turn it forward, right, and basically recycle. And if you missed part of it, he was talking about how in Los Angeles there's going to be this effort to where you can, like a library, check out seeds, you plant them, and then as it produces some new seeds, you take them back, and everyone benefits. I just love that. Well, coming up, we're going to stay in the garden. In just a moment, we're going to talk with an expert about how to go native, not only to be water-wise, because we are always so aware of that need, especially here in California, but everywhere. But how, if you are water-wise in what you do in the garden, how it's not only going to help all of us with our precious resource, but it's going to be really appealing to birds and to butterflies and other creatures that are going to be knocking on your door in a good way. And then later, we're going to talk with a designer to the stars. I love this woman. Her name is Sandra Espinay. You've heard her here before. And she really has worked her magic for a number of celebrities, but she's so down to earth in spite of it. And you probably have seen her quite a bit on HGTV. And I thought, what a great time as we're getting into the new year to kind of figure out our new design look and feel. I mean, maybe you do that to your wardrobe. I try to do that. You start out the new year. You kind of say out with the old and in with the new, or what's really working for you and what's not. And why not do that as you walk around the spaces in your home, whether it's a condo or an apartment or a nice big palatial estate, whatever it is. There's something, I'm sure, in that home where you go, you know what, this is an old stuffy room. What am I doing that for? How to give it a breath of fresh air with a new sense of you in those rooms that really may be suffering. This is something I always love to do every year, and so we're going to get Sandra's help to help us all with it, okay? And as you're listening and hearing something that you may want to hear again, maybe you're driving and running some errands on that honey-do or honey-don't list, not to worry. You can always go back to the website at cindydole.com. We have it there in the on-air section, cindydole.com, and you can hear the past shows. We always put them up, by Sunday or so. In fact, right now when you go there, you can listen again to our Rose Parade coverage and to our behind-the-scenes of the making of the floats, and also our post-parade coverage, and hopefully you'll have a chance listening and enjoying some of that. All right? So onto the garden and some great ways to really give your landscaping and your front yard or your backyard a bit of what comes naturally in California. We're talking about California natives. Now, we always hear about California natives, but what is it about them that makes them special in California, and why do they not only add beauty and interest but save on water? With me is someone who knows, because she's part scientist, part artist, part photographer. She's kind of got it all going on. Connie Vadheim, who teaches at Cal State Dominguez Hills and does all kinds of things. Connie, thanks for being here.
Hi, Cindy. Glad
Hi.
to join you.
So tell us, how did you end up with a left brain and a right brain? You're part biologist and part artist.
You know, I think it's because I garden.
Oh,
And
really?
gardening really requires you to have both.
Isn't that great? And how is it and why is it that you are passionate about the garden, and what is it that you love about biology, that when you're in the garden you go, you know what, I'm just going to spend more time in the garden and I'm going to do this or that?
Well, you know, there's so much going on in the garden, and particularly if you use the native plants, because they're so pretty. And they also attract butterflies, they attract birds, they attract all sorts of interesting creatures to your yard. And what that means is that your yard is an exciting place. There's something going on all the time. And whether it's just looking at a pretty flower or seeing what some interesting seeds look like, or looking and seeing what just sprouted up, you know, with the rains, a lot of stuff is sprouting up. There's always something going on in a California garden.
And you teach a class. In fact, there's one coming up next week to kind of help us learn how to be more water-wise.
Absolutely. I'm calling this series Wild in the Garden. It's going to be at the South Coast Botanic Garden, and starts next Wednesday evening. And if you're interested, you can call the South Coast Botanic Garden at 310-544 and learn more about and sign up for the class.
Mm-hmm. Well, so what do we need to learn to be smarter about choosing California native plants? And how do you know if it's a California native versus an implant?
You know, the best way, I think, is to either take a class or read some of the really good books there are about California natives. And one of my real favorites is a book called California Native Plants for the Garden. It's by Carol Bornstein, Bornstein, and David Frost and Bart O'Brien, and it's a wonderful intro to native plants. Another thing you can do is go to nurseries, the Theodore Payne Foundation Nursery,
right,
or the Rancho Santa Ana Botanic Garden, or go online. There are a number of good online sources too associated with those with those places and other ones.
We seem to hear a lot here on the show and through the website, and just as I'm out and about, that people are more and more, I think, in tune with the need to be smart about the choices that they make in their garden. I mean, whether it's choosing not to have a lawn, losing the grass completely, or maybe just selectively having some of it and then balancing it with more hardscapes or other kind of plants. I mean, are you seeing that there's more of that kind of an attitude? And
a lot. And part of it, of course, is just because we need to, we can't use as much water as we did in the past. But I just think people are changing. They're slowing down, and they're saying, I don't really do anything on that lawn. We don't use it. Let's use that land in a better way. Let's make something that is pretty, or someplace where we can sit and have dinner, or something else that's more useful.
Right. I mean, gosh, we've talked with a guy who is all about turning your front yard into edible art. Making the front yard. I mean, who knew that crops can look like topiaries and beautiful things, it doesn't have to look all wild and woolly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that many people don't know about native plants, too, is that you can actually use native plants in a way that's very formal. So if you want to do an espalier, for example, along a wall with native plants, there are native plants that you can do that.
Okay.
So, it doesn't just necessarily have to look like a place that's like totally out in the wild. Not at all.
Right. I think we've gotten past the idea that natives are not tumbleweed, but maybe we still need to kind of feel a little more enlightened that we have options, and I know you can help us, that we have literally hundreds of options. So when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the good ones to get started and be Southern California native as a gardener and really turn that front or back or side yard into something that's going to save water and attract birds and butterflies and all kind of fun little friends. Home Wizard Cindy Dole, the fun continues, and you can call on in at 888-KFWB 980. We're back after this. Seth Binderup has picked another great song to hopefully put a smile on your face, because Home Wizards, we're all about helping you improve those spaces you call home, but in the process, we like to laugh and smile too. So some good tunes as we're kind of working through our Saturday. Cindy Dole here, Home Wizards, here every Saturday from 2 to 4. And you can call on in at 888-KFWB 980, 888-539-2980. We're talking about ways to go a little more California native with Connie Vadheim, who is a professor of biology, but also a passionate gardener, and she teaches at Cal State Dominguez Hills, but also is going to be teaching some other classes in the Southland. So thanks for giving some of your time here, Connie. And I know that a lot of people who are listening who may be going to garden centers today think, they look at these different plants and they go, how do I know if it's a California native?
Yeah, well, one thing you should do is ask, but there are some that are available that are categories that have a lot of California natives in them. For example, the sages or salvias. There are a number of them that are available widely that are California natives. How about, have you ever heard of manzanitas?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Well, there are some wonderful manzanitas that are California natives. And how about ceanothus? Do you know
yes, California lilac.
California lilacs. Yeah, they're so pretty. And you know what? There are ones that you can use for trees. There are ones you can use for ground covers. So those are some choices. A lot of people don't realize that people in other parts of the world just covet our plants, and they're, to them, they're the most beautiful exotic plants in the world. So if they're planting them in England, we should be planting them here.
Yeah. Well, so it's almost like it's a stepchild, huh? We kind of look at some of these plants as freeway, leftovers.
We just don't know. We just, I guess you don't value what's right there, right?
Well, that's kind of, I love the pepper tree. I mean, they're everywhere on the freeways, and that's my most favorite tree to have in our front yard. I love how it's almost like a weeping willow. It's just so fluffy and just kind of dangles down, and that's pretty much a California native, isn't it?
Well, it's not a California native, but it's been here for a long time.
It's an implant.
It's an import, but it's been here for a long time.
And it certainly is drought tolerant. It seems to be very happy.
Tolerant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, so speaking of that, how do you compare the difference between a California native versus the Mediterranean type of plants that seem to do really well here in Southern California?
They do well because we're in a Mediterranean climate here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same climate, whether we're talking about Greece or here, or Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, they do well. And the reason why is because we get our rain in the winter, and then it's really, really hot and dry for the summertime and into the fall. And so, any plants from the Mediterranean or here do well in that kind of climate. They're just adapted. They've lived there for such a long time. They can cope.
Well, let's give people at least 4 or 5 ideas in different categories to think California native, whether it's this weekend or the coming weeks ahead. Let's say starting with ground cover. Could you give us 1 or 2 things just to kind of focus on or watch out for?
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ones I really like are some of the compact forms of coyote bush.
Huh?
Coyote brush.
What's a coyote brush? I don't know that one.
Baccharis paularis, and it's a wonderful ground cover that's just nice and green and pretty, and it looks beautiful with some of the evergreen ceanothus.
Oh, and you can walk on it?
Better not to walk on it.
Tiptoe.
Actually, it's a woody one, so not walk on it. But if you want something you can walk on, common yarrow is a California native that you can walk on. You can mow it if you want to. You can let it flower, and it comes in a lot of different colors now. So a yarrow is a good choice.
All right, how about a couple of vines? Because I love nice flowering vines, and I'm sure a lot of people, especially as we wind our way closer to spring, are thinking of hanging out on the patio.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are native California morning glories. And those you'll probably have to get at a place like Theodore Payne Foundation.
Okay.
But the native morning glories are absolutely beautiful. And another one that's really good that'll give you some good fall color as well as something to eat is the Rogers Red California grape.
Ooh.
Is that cool? And you can have it grow over your patio and get fruit.
Is that now is that deciduous?
It's deciduous, but the leaves get bright red before they drop the leaves. So is that cool or is that cool?
That sounds really nice.
Yeah.
All right. How about a couple of California native trees that we should be considering?
One of my absolute favorites actually is blue elderberry.
Okay.
Particularly for those of us in the lowlands, a blue elderberry makes a wonderful small tree. It's a nice size for the home garden. And so that's one that people really like. If you have a sort of a narrow area and you want something that looks really really unique, there's Catalina ironwood is a beautiful plant. It looks very exotic, and it's sort of tall and thin. And so if you have a kind of a small area, it's great for that.
All right. Well, tell everybody again, is there a website where people can find more information on you and the class, the Wild in the Garden class coming up?
Yes, you can go to the website of the South Coast Botanical Gardens and find out about the class. And we're going to have a website that's not up yet, but be looking for a website for Project Sound, SOUND.
Gotcha. All right, Connie, thank you for joining us. That's our cue. We have to go, but we'll have you back. Connie Vadheim, who has some really great ideas about going native in the garden. So think about it, all right? Up next, we're going to get your groove on inside the house, all right? Our friend Sandra Espinay has helped all kinds of celebrities. You've seen her on TV, but now it's all about you and getting your style for the new year, okay? We can do this. Cindy Dole, Home Wizards, we're back after this.
Yeah.